welcome. I just want to welcome all of you. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay, so this should look very familiar, this beautiful flyer that talks about what we are going to do today. So I want to welcome all of you to our Ike Kaiaulu Talk Story session. I'm getting really excited about the fact that we're on a roll. There's like a lot of people registered for the entire season of Ike Kaiaulu Talk Stories, and it's really exciting. So I want to welcome all of you today. Hopefully you know a little bit about Ike Kaiaulu. You know that it formerly, AKA, was our service learning program. And we have a whole bunch of, as I said, talk story series lined up all the way through April, actually, or March. You can see March here on the screen. Next month, we have the Hawaiian Humane Society, and then we have Ho'okua'aina, and then Hui o Ko'olapoko. So I'm super excited. Hopefully you have already marked every single second Friday of every month from 2 to 3 on your calendar. Just put a big X so that nobody puts anything there. And join us for this wonderful series of talk stories. They're lots of fun. So today we have the Director of Reading and Discussion Programs, which sounds so formal. Rob Chang, who is from the Hawai'i Council of the Humanities. And he has a question that is kind of a question that we've all been kind of thinking about, especially during times of COVID. How do we engage with our communities? Is one that is kind of probably for the first time in a very long time, really a question that people need to really sit and think about, because it doesn't always just come that easily. But there's a series called Try Think, and hopefully you've heard of Try Think. That's what I put on the bottom of the screen. Rob is going to let us know a little bit about Try Think today. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Rob, and maybe he can, and I'm going to unshare the screen so that we can see each other a little bit better, or at least I can see you a little bit better. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Rob, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about the kind of things that Hawaii Council for the Humanities has been doing. What I'm really excited about is talking a little bit about the incarcerated populations that you have been working with. And I know Try Think has been very much a tool that you've been able to use within these populations. And I think what's really cool is these populations are incarcerated and then they're not incarcerated. And how do we create that bridge? I think Try Think has a lot to do with that. So take it away, Rob.
Malanoi, and mahalo to all of you for joining in this afternoon. Happy Aloha Friday. As Noi mentioned, my name is Rob, and I'm with the Hawaii Council for the Humanities. I always like to ask this question because we're one of the organizations that we don't really shout our name out loud a lot. So it's always interesting to see how many people have heard of the Hawaii Council for the Humanities. So by a show of hands, I know I cannot see everybody, but about how many people have heard of the Hawaii Council for the Humanities before? Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. That's a little more than usual, which is kind of cool. If you haven't heard of who we are the state affiliate to the National Endowment for the Humanities. There are 56 humanities councils around the country. Every state has one. Also, each of the territories has one. And what we get to do, which is really exciting for me, is we get to provide and support humanities-based programs around the state. We do a lot of amazing work, have been partners in and helped funded a lot of great projects over the years. We're coming up on our 50th anniversary of being an organization, of which I am excited and happy to say I've been a part of for the past 22 years now. If you haven't heard of Hawaii Council for the Humanity, or HCH, or High Humanities, which we kind of go by either of those, you may have heard of some of the programs that we do. In addition to offering grants and doing partnerships with organizations doing humanities based work, one of our premier council conducted programs is Hawaii History Day. So if you have been a teacher in the public schools and private schools here in the state, or you may have been called upon to be a judge in our district and school and state program contests. Windward Community College has been a longtime supporter of Hawaii History Day. We do our Windward Fair and our state fair there for a number of years. So Hawaii History Day and the teacher workshops that go along with that is one of the programs that we run. But the one that I am maybe most proud of, mostly because I had a part in bringing it together and providing this program, is one called Try Think, as Noah has mentioned. About 4 years ago, a colleague of mine, Dr. Tammy Jones, and we put together this program with one real big focus in mind, and that is to try and provide a way to help communities strengthen with one particular with one particular course of action. And that is around the idea of genuine conversations, getting people together to share in and participate in genuine conversations. And what do I mean by genuine conversations? Well, it's conversations where everybody is welcome. Nobody is excluded from the conversation. And everybody who comes and participates feels like they are heard and considered. So it's not just about coming and talking, but we want people to listen. We want people to share. We want people to stretch. We want people to be open to change, open to ideas. It doesn't mean that we all have to come to some sort of consensus at the end. We value disagreement. We value debate. It's a space for everybody, but we want it to be a productive space. So we called it Try Think. And the place we decided to try this out at was the Women's Community Correctional Center out in Windward, Oahu. Prior to starting Try Think, I had been providing programming around the state in the different correctional facilities. And so we decided, why not try here? A space where, the idea of community, feelings around community, being parts of communities is really strained at times. And the idea of genuine communication, genuine conversation is really a luxury for the men and women in these facilities. So we tried this out at the women's facility. We weren't really sure what the response would be. But about a week prior to our program starting, I was made aware that not only was our class full, but we had a 2-page wait list for women who wanted to join in. And part of that is because of the room capacity. We were assigned a room where we could have 15 people in it. So we tried to make a deal with the chapel there, and they allowed us to use their space. We could fit 35 people. So the waiting list shrunk, but every week that we went, our space was filled. And we had to turn people away, which all that told us was people wanted to come and be a part of this. This was something they were missing, and this is something that they wanted to take part in. So we ran the program there for about 6 months and decided, why don't we try this up at Halava as well? So we offered it to Halava, and we had similar success. We have a room there that can accommodate about 30. And again, we got waiting lists. And all the way up until COVID hit, when the facilities locked down, we ran this program every week. What it taught us was that people really did want to feel like they're a part of a community. They really wanted to feel like they could connect with people and not just talk, but share and listen and stretch and be challenged and feel like they can disagree, but do it in a productive way. And they wanted to feel like they were part of a positive community. And that's what it is that we provided in these two spaces. Since COVID hit and the facilities have kind of locked down, we took what we've learned within these facilities, started opening up spaces within the community, calling them Tri-Think community conversations. We've been holding them twice a month now since March. The ones that we are currently doing are tied with a particular book that has a whole bunch of essays looking at what life would be like moving out of COVID. You guys may have heard of the book. It's shoot, I don't have a copy of it right now, but it's The Value of Hawaii 3, Pulihia. Noe is one of the facilitators that has helped us with that. And this is our attempt, or one of our attempts at the council, to engage community in a positive way, to try and strengthen community through conversation. And looking at the time, what I'd like to offer this group here today is an opportunity to take part in a smaller, sort of condensed Tri-Think conversation. So I don't know that you all came thinking this is going to be a participatory thing, but surprise, happy Friday. The idea of this is that we encourage all voices to participate. Share your ideas, ask a question, share a thought. We're going to try to do this. Let's see, we got 22 people. What we're going to try to do is break up into some smaller groups. So we got some chances to connect since we really got maybe about half an hour, 40 minutes. Normally our Tri-Think conversations go for about 90 minutes. So this one will be much shorter. And the way we do this is we always open with something, have our space, and any space we open up, we definitely try and close in an appropriate manner. So for today's opening, what I wanted to do is ask you all to think about the feeling that you feel when I ask you to think about community, or when I ask you to think about people you consider part of your community. So what's a feeling that you feel? And if you don't mind, I'm going to paste the question in the chat. If you don't mind, can you type a word in the chat, the feeling, the idea, what comes to mind when I say community, or the people you consider part of your community? So I'll throw myself out there, and my word is care. Oh, acceptance. Nice. Honesty. Support. Trust. All right. That's a nice list. Encouragement. Okay. If you're still putting stuff in, put stuff in, go for it. Thank you for your responses to that. I want to share a quick story. One of the conversations that I've been lucky enough to have within the facilities and outside of the facilities is a question is a conversation that starts with this question that I've asked, and I asked the men and women on the inside, do you feel like you're part of the community outside these walls? Right? And generally their answer is no, I don't. I then asked them, do you think the people outside these walls feel like you're a part of their community? And again, the answer is typically no, we don't think so. And then we sort of build a conversation around that idea of, being a part of, feeling a part of. I've also had opportunity to ask this question in our community conversations, asking people, within the community, do you feel like the men and women who are in Halava, in the women's facility, in Waiava, do you feel like they are part of this outside community? And generally the answer is no, not really. I also asked that sort of flip side question. Do you think that the men and women in those facilities feel like they're a part of this community? And again, the answer is no. So that always gets me thinking about, how we see community, how we feel about community. Who do we consider part of our community? And so part of my question that I'm going to throw out to everybody is, looking at the answers that you guys gave and the feelings that you guys shared about community, people that we feel are part of the community, is it that we feel the opposite for those who we don't consider part of our community? That there is no connection or trust. They're not our neighbors. They're not our friends. The idea of support, the idea of care. We don't feel these things for people who are not part of our community, or we identify as not part of a community. I'm not saying that we do or we don't. It's just something to kind of think about in terms of how we position ourselves as how we think of who's in our community. So with that, I would like to share a couple of questions and then invite you to join in a small group. And maybe we'll stay there for about 10 minutes. Try the groups of 4 or 4-ish, and maybe start and see where a conversation might lead with this idea. Let me copy this and get it to the chat. So I got 2 questions to consider. What does it mean to coexist with those we do not immediately consider part of our community? And I put this in the chat. And what might be the benefits or implications of reimagining who we consider our community to be? Okay, so we're going to have some breakout rooms set up. These breakout rooms won't have a facilitator in the room, so excuse me. So part of it is we're going to rely on each other to get the conversation going. You probably will be in a room with some people you don't know. But what a better way to get to know people than to start a conversation about community, right? So throw yourself out there, stretch yourself a little, ask a question, share an idea around maybe these 2 questions or anything that has been said so far. Like I said, we'll be there about 10 minutes. Then we'll come back and share any thoughts that that had come out or anything that anybody thought was interesting in these conversations. Let's see. Anybody got any questions before we magically zoom to our different spaces? No? If not, then and ask my friend to get it going. Perfect. And I'll probably be in one of the rooms with one of you, a couple of you. So we'll see you in a little bit. All right. Is everybody back? Think so. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed your time in your breakout room, getting to know some new friends. I just wanted to open up the conversation. Oh, there's a couple more people joining back.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm back.
We thought everybody was back, but maybe not yet.
Well, I kind of left before everybody got booted. I'm like, I'm going fast. I'm fine. You guys have a good conversation. Hi, Saturna.
I see a lot of head nodding, so that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, we had
So
a
yeah,
good conversation too.
I just wanted to open it up to any comments, any ideas that had come up in the small group conversations that anybody wanted to share with the bigger group. Throw out as ideas, ask questions, anything at all. If you want to just shout it out, raise your hand. We'll find you if need be. Has anybody got anything that they heard?
I think everybody's gone back to incognito.
I see that. Everybody forgot how
Well,
to.
I shared that I have that thinking of that Olelo Noyao, the he moku he va'a he moku. The island is a va'a and a va'a is a moku. Yeah, so we all share in the response. Even though we live in a moku, it's like a va'a. We're all in it together. Yeah, and whenever one somebody doesn't paddle, it affects down the line, and so you gotta your kuleana. If you don't carry it, then the moku doesn't drive either, and the va'a doesn't move. But
Mm.
we all in the same. The moku becomes a va'a when we're on it together. And I said sometimes one side of the island, somebody does something, it'll somehow ripple effect to the other side. You leave late from Kaneo and you're trying to get to
Like that.
Waianae, and then you miss it. You miss that gap, and you're stuck, kind of thing. Yeah. So I mentioned that.
I like that analogy. It's awesome.
I like it too. But it does mean that people have to buy into that, right? I mean, it's hard to have that idea if a certain percentage of the island, the moku, the va'a just doesn't either doesn't want to be a part of it or doesn't feel like they're a part of it.
Mm.
So, how do we get to that point where people want to not only just want to, but also feel like they're a part of this? And I also failed to mention, but please, if you want to add things to the chat, please use that as a space to comment, throw things in there as well.
We actually had a very interesting discussion in because it intrigued me when you were asking questions about the incarcerated population not feeling part of the larger population. And I don't know why, I just have never thought about it. I just never thought about that. And then Jody in our group was saying that you kind of have to make an effort to be part of a community. And then Charlie in our group was talking about how, Charlie, you want to tell the story about the prisoners?
Okay, I had to unmute, but again, I had to leave home to take care of some business. And on my way back home to be part of this meeting, the road was blocked off or partially blocked off because of the cleaning on the road. And the people doing the cleaning were the prisoners. They were both male and female prisoners. So I think the community has different degrees or different aspects to it.
Yeah, so that's great, Charlie. I think that it was cool to think about how they were making strides towards being part of the community, at least temporarily. And then, they would go back and maybe not feel part of the community. And so what is it that, what are the different degrees, as Charlie said, to think about being part of the community? It takes effort, yeah, and energy.
Yeah, them being given that opportunity to clear the grass and cut away all the foliage and the growth along the highways and the medial strips. I mean, to them, they love just getting out, you know what I mean? And so they're literally out, but they're working, yeah. But maybe they don't realize, oh, we're actually serving the community. We're saving money for city, county, state, so they don't have to send their workers. We're doing the work for them, kind of thing. But then they get rewarded, they maybe play lunch or go eat someplace, right? But they in their, if they were given that reinforcement, hey, thanks for helping us cut the grass and keeping them clean, then they get that sense that, hey, we can still belong. We still, the way inside, we come outside and we contribute. Yeah, we become contributors. We give back, kind of thing. Yeah, and that's when I think people, like Rob's saying, how do we get people to buy in? Yeah, and when you contribute, when you give back, or you have a sense of that community that you were a part of it, yeah, that you make it better and cleaner or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, that's a great example of them working on the freeways.
Yeah, definitely.
Our group started to talk about different marginalized communities, the homeless, Micronesian, and the systemic racism that we have here in Hawaii. So we kind of went all covered a lot of topics within a short amount of time. And I want to tag Robin because she shared some really profound um, mana'o that really expanded my thinking.
Well, you all are already making me think about completely different things. So I'm thinking again about the people we see wearing those bright orange vests or whatever they wear. And two thoughts. Oh, be careful, don't hit them because they're wearing the bright orange vest. Oh, they're prisoners. And where'd they come from? Oh, they came from the community. So when did they suddenly not become a member of the community just because they were literally put in a big building, but they still want to hear about who graduated and who got married and, did Auntie have her operation? And then we were talking about the homeless. And I'm thinking, well, if you're homeless, you must have had a home at some point. Where was it? What happened to it? How'd you lose it? And just like Ginger removed her cat, maybe somebody's home was taken away, or somebody couldn't afford their home anymore. And I wonder why these people are not members of, quote, our community. And because I'm new to Hawaii, I don't feel that I know the community. I know some communities. Saturna and I both know the communities of people who have dogs. We're really happy with that community, or the community of people with cats, but I don't know how to identify my community yet here.
So many different kinds of communities, for sure. Interesting to think who decided that they were not part of that larger community. What is the community? What is the community? It makes you think.
So I'm curious about what it is that people think they're not part of the community. What is the clue, or where is that coming from? I'm curious about that. And if there was anything that was shared, or that anybody, I think that part of it might be judgment, that there's a sense of being judged as maybe not valued in the community, but I'm curious about that.
Somebody in our group said something about how, it was Jody. Jody was saying how when you have a community, it's based on people that interact with one another. So thinking about prisoners that can't have a cell phone, that have only a certain amount of people on their list that they can call, it's really limited to our interaction with the community. Does anybody else have any other thoughts on what makes a community?
I think as a college, our community are the people that we have kuleana towards. And I think that was what really made us start a program for incarcerated youth and women, because we realized that these two populations were part of our community, and no one was taking that kuleana on for education within the facilities for our brothers and our sisters and our families members that were in there. So I really, and maybe part of that is the function of working at the college, but we really view the community as our servant. Whom are we supposed to serve?
Hmm.
Deborah Lee, did I see you unmute for a second? Was there something you wanted to share?
Well, I was part of Artists group, so I shared, like, from my experience, I used to work for a council person, and we would volunteer and do meals and things for the homeless here in Kona. And it was just interesting because I've seen some incarcerated women that were released, you know, because they had a single women and men shelter. But so my mana'o was like, most of them, you know, didn't have the support, so they end up being homeless. They end up going back out to the streets. They end up going back to jail. Some of them were my relatives. I mean, that was the other part of it. So, you know, myself and the council person I worked for, she was trying to figure out programs to help them, whether to give them fine training, you know, or something, so that, so I don't know. It was tough, because besides that, then we would also help the homeless teenagers. So that was even harder, seeing younger girls, yeah, runaways. And I mean, the youngest I saw that was living out in the streets was 11 years old. So it hit home, you know, because I have my own children. So just those things, you know, and trying to figure out how to help them. So yeah, it hits home for me big time.
One of the conversations that we had in our room around the concept of community, and I think it was artists who also just kind of touched on this and made me think of it, that a lot of times community revolves around who we interact with, who we have access to. And that's a form of protection for us as well. That's, you know, we're trained to find our clan, to find our people, because that feels safe, that feels right. But when we put up those barriers, be they physical for the incarcerated population or not at all physical for the unhoused population, when we put up those divides, it, like in reality, it really makes our community less healthy. When we fracture ourselves and don't try and allocate resources for everybody to have what they need, you know, all the basic stuff they need, we all really suffer in the end. But it's hard to get people to like see that and accept it and want to work for better for everybody.
The other thing that I'm thinking about is just in my own experience with my sister and then my mother, is that I saw a real strong desire to be of value, to be useful. It's like when I came to visit my sister, she wouldn't see me until she had a chance to go to the, you know, thrift store and get something, some gifts for each person in the family. That she had to, you know, she wanted to give, she wanted to not just receive. In fact, that was not something she wanted to do. And then my mother, who had dementia, at her day program, she was the most alive when they were making biscuits for the dogs down at the shelter, because she was contributing to something. So I also think there's that other part of the equation is, where do we extend the opportunities to contribute? And I wonder if the conversations gave everybody a place to contribute. And that is part of what they valued in those discussions.
So I like Kathleen Kilohana's remarks about contributing, but I think there another part that marks the community is being able to ask, letting yourself be vulnerable and ask for help. I need help to do this, or I don't understand, would you explain? And I think that that's another avenue for connection to a community.
Linda, I like that idea. And it's making me think about what Vernon shared in the beginning, what artists shared, you know, around this idea of responsibility and kuleana. If we create this situation where people are open to asking, open to reach out, open to be vulnerable, what is the responsibility of the community at that point in response to that? And the people who make up the community, you know, is it to take the time to help, to answer? You know, it makes me think about that idea of responsibility, not just to what's my part to the community, but what's my community's responsibility to me and to each other as well.
I think the responsibility is to respond. It doesn't mean that you're going to give the person what they ask for, or that you can give them the answer that they want. But I think the responsibility for the person in the community that is being asked is a response. In the case that Vernon was talking about, somebody who is incarcerated could say to the authorities, I would like to contribute back to the community by going out on the work team. So if there's a chance for me to go out and be working, I hope that you will pick me. And the person who's in charge may say, I'm sorry, because of this, 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 and this, you cannot. But now that I know that you're interested, let's see if we can work on that. So it doesn't mean that you'll get what you ask for, but being able to ask connects you to the community.
That makes me think about people. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
Nope.
No. It makes me think about people that can't ask, like people that can't speak, maybe because of something, a disability, and I wonder how they are affected mentally by that inability to ask. And I wonder if anybody has any experiences with people and know more insight about that.
Well, and I think that inability or feeling unable to ask also expands to things like language barriers, just being part of a marginalized community, not feeling like your voice is even if you can speak and be loud, nobody cares, nobody wants to care. Any other, if you haven't noticed, there's been a whole lot of really neat stuff being put in the chat as well. Thank you, Liko and Saturna, Colette, for adding things in there. I know we got maybe about 5-7 minutes left. Any other final-ish comments? So anything anybody else wants to add into this conversation? Aiko.
Hi, sorry I was late. Hi, Windward Community College. I grew up in Kaneohe. My name's Aiko. It's nice to be here with you guys and with Rob. I get to work with Robin. And I came late because I was so frustrated because I had to talk to my mom's tax person who was frustrated with my mom because my mom doesn't answer her phone. And now I have to change all of my weekend plans and like go do this tax thing that's due next week. And I had a hard couple of days and I didn't want to do that. Sorry. Anyway, it's connected to what you guys are talking about. I was just thinking about how I think if you're a strong community, if you're in strong relationships, then you can move and you want to move. Because we all got to move, we all got to change, things happen. And I was thinking about what Mr. Viernes shared, that he wa'au he moku. I mean, the wa'au moves. And I could feel in my heart, like, I don't want to change my Saturday, I want to just relax. But I'm gonna, because I care about my mom and I care about these taxes. But then, beyond my life, just thinking about how, if we're connected, like it's for some reason I can think of like a community as like a community center, like a building, and we build it together and it's strong. And that's different from thinking about it like a flock of birds where we're really connected and we can just go. And if somebody changes direction, we'll all change direction and it's not a big deal. I was just thinking about how sometimes as a community, we really need to do something, and it means changing our regular and changing maybe what we individually want, and how willing or not we are to change, or how able we are to change, or how able we are to see that if somebody changes, I gotta change too. I don't know, I was just thinking about that responsibility and that response and that movement. I never really thought about it like that before. Just that movement and how well can we move together. So thank you for helping me think about that.
I have a wondering, are you aware of any current programs within the prison system that allows incarcerated folks to continue to have that connection to their children? You know, over a decade ago, I worked at Alulike, and we would record mothers. We'd go into the prison, record them. They would read a story to their keiki, and then they would tell their own personal story. You know, and we would mail it to their keiki, and then vice versa. And then the program funding ended, and we didn't have any money. And, you know, but is there any sort of program like that that maintains the connection to their ohana and the connection to our community?
So I know of two. Keiki Okaina still does some work. Three, actually, I take that back. Three. Read to Me International was still going in and they shifted what they were doing. I remember you guys doing the recordings. What they've done now is they've had the women write stories. So they create books and they get them done up really nice, like fully published looking books, and then send them home. And then the third group is Pu'ao Foundation. They support a Kids Day event that happened, I think, twice a year, once around the holidays, once at another point. But for the women who were eligible, you had to be eligible for it. They could have their kids come in and visit and have a whole day, if not a whole day, then a whole afternoon of family time. But those are the three groups that I know of. The one thing that is really interesting is that there's a lot of focus on the women in prison. There isn't a whole lot of focus on the men and keeping them connected with their families. And so I'm not saying take away from the women, but you know, there's that whole other side that doesn't get as much attention and programming for. Oh yeah, and Camp Agape. That's right. Thanks, Vernon, for adding that in.
So the Camp Agape is a camp over Labor Day weekend for the children of incarcerated. So the Pa'ahao, the prisoners write in and send their kids' name and application to this organization, and the kids get sent to a camp for the Labor Day weekend to connect and get catered, get aloha on, and grow in some faith and scripture. And the kids end up going there not knowing why. Oh, Mamara made me come. And then the first night is rough because a lot of them want to go home, you know, but then the last day they don't want to go home. So what happens after that is the kids start to open up channels to talk to their parents, whoever's incarcerated, sending them letters. Oh, Mom, when you get out, you got to come church with me. And I did this camp. And, you know, the kids get familiar with other kids and they become like, it's normalized. They're like, oh, I'm not cuckoo, I'm not crazy, I'm not the only one thinking shame like that, you know. So yeah, that camp has done almost over 10 years great work, that bringing the fathers out and then finally reconnecting because the kids want to connect with them again. So it's so funny when I worked the camp and I asked the kids in the first few days, do you want to say a prayer for your mom and dad? Oh no, I hate them because of what they did to us. And eventually towards the end, and then at the end again, I asked, I said, yeah, I like pray for them to stay safe. I said, nothing for you or your family? No, I want to pray for my mom and dad to stay safe and come home. I'm like, what is that? You know what I mean? Now they care about the safety of their parents to come home. Yeah. And I was like, wow. So that's that change. Yeah. So churches send volunteers and people who've never come across or interacted with people affected by incarceration. It transforms. Yeah. So yeah, that one is a good one too.
Yeah, thanks, Vernon. Thanks for sharing that. I forgot about them, but yeah, they do great work as well. So I'm just noticing that it's 3 o'clock. And this is the time that our conversation was supposed to go until. Let me do one thing real quick, and that's to put our website in the chat. We're always looking for opportunities to have conversations with different groups. So if you have a group, an idea, anything that you think some conversation can be built around that, reach out to me. I'm always open for it. Like I told you, we always try and close the spaces that we open. Today's one will be quick. And it's just to think of somebody. We always think about these Try Think conversations as the beginnings of conversations. And we hope that the conversations don't end just because our time together ends. So think about somebody that you would want to share something that you heard today with, so that this conversation continues on beyond our time together. Normally we ask people to share a name, something, but since we're at 3 o'clock, I'll go and trust that you got somebody in mind and you got a nice conversation to look forward to. So thank you all for coming and being a part of this.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so glad, because you know what I saw today? A lot of nodding heads. And nodding heads means there was a connection made. And when a connection is made, it means that you want to carry on thinking and talking about it. And so I encourage you to do that and take it out into the community. Think of a tiny way. I was like thinking of all the things I could do to connect myself to a community that I'm not connected to. But I totally am excited about this for all of you. And I thank you for our little mini community that we had for 1 hour. We are a community. So I will see you guys next month about the Humane Society. We'll connect with cats and dogs, bringing them into our community. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye. Aloha.
Thanks, Noe.
Thank you, Rob.
Good to see you, Rob. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Claire.